Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. So Donald Trump has said he will decide whether or not to join Israel in attacking Iran in 2 weeks. He says this is to give Iran time to agree to his nuclear deal, even though threats make it less likely that Tehran would do so. But Trump's statement about a 2-week window could just be a con. And it could be one of several cons. But first, for daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel to stay notified. So Trump is now trying to suggest that he is waiting 2 weeks before deciding what to do in order to give Iran more time to agree to the deal, based on the notion that perhaps weakening of their nuclear capabilities by Israel will sharpen their focus. This is becoming a regular feature of Trump's second term in office, isn't it?
Now, if the 2 weeks notice sounds familiar, it's because he's pushed off decisions like this several times before.
We're going to be announcing something, I would say, over the next 2 or 3 weeks that will be phenomenal in terms of tax. I will make that decision, I would say, over the next 2 weeks, probably right after the G20. I can't tell you that, but I'll let you know in about 2 weeks.
He announces delays, windows, pauses, he claims, in order to let the other side come to agreement, but it always turns out that it's to give himself time to work on a face-saving climb down. And I do not believe this is any different. It's not to pressure Iran into agreeing anything, because this would not be the way to do that. In reality, it would just make an agreement look like capitulation, which a strongman government like the current Iranian leadership would be unlikely to survive. We'll not come to beg at the gates of the White House, Khamenei has said. So if Trump wants a deal, he needs a diplomatic solution, which allows the Iranian leadership to save face. Trump doesn't seem to be providing that. The UK and the EU are attempting to do so in talks with Iran at Geneva. But what could Trump really be up to? Because you wouldn't take a presidential statement in a matter like this at face value with any US president, certainly not Trump. One possibility being put forward is that he could be attempting the same trick as the Israelis did in their initial attack. So before Israel attacked, the US were due to hold a round of talks with Iran at that weekend. So of course the Iranians were sort of on relatively low alert for an attack, because they wouldn't have imagined that the US government would have been so weak as to allow Israel to, as Trump put it, blow up those talks. Trump could do the same thing here. He says he's going to take 2 weeks to decide, only to launch the bombing raid much sooner when nobody's really expecting it. However, the ruse could be the complete opposite. Not to hide an early strike, but to hide the fact he's not actually ready to strike right now. Destroying the Fordo site is no easy task even for the USA. Trump has been reportedly telling his officials he does not want to authorise the strike unless it is guaranteed to succeed. He would look like a right tit if his bombers dropped their bunker busters and the Ayatollah turned around and said, "Is that it? All that fuss and you knock over a few plant pots? My goodness." Trump is probably very pleased that the Israeli war with Iran took the attention away from his humiliating birthday parade and the challenge to his authority from the No Kings protests. The last thing he wants to do is lay the groundwork for an even bigger humiliation. So let's say that he has decided he wants to take out Fordo. He needs to be certain it will work. And not just to avoid his trousers falling down, but because he will know it's the only way to get Israel to stop attacking. I've said before, Trump is against war, not because he's a man of law or compassion, but because war is not profitable for him. It's why he always backs the side he perceives to be the stronger of the two, because he thinks backing them is the quickest way to end the war. Put your shoulder behind the side which is already in the best position, push the victory over the line. He doesn't care which side is in the right, the long-term consequences, only what can end the conflict the quickest. We've seen it in Ukraine, we saw it in Afghanistan, we'll see it in Iran. So part of the reason for the delay could be to get a picture of which side really is the stronger. Right now you would think Israel. But will this still be the case in 2 weeks' time? Do they have the munitions to keep the assaults up when they don't have the capacity for a Hail Mary move to get a decisive victory? What if Trump gets the US involved and it does nothing to force Iran into agreeing anything, and it drags on for months or years? It may only harden their resolve. I mean, can you imagine the current Iranian leadership agreeing to anything as a result of joint aggression from America and Israel? I'm not sure I can. Another possibility, also in line with Trump wanting to be assured of decisive victory, is to get more resources in place. See, the New York Times made the point that the extra time would allow the US to get a second aircraft carrier into position, because if Trump does authorise strikes, it's not a case of directing the bombers to strike Fordo and then whole thing over back for tea. Iran has promised to hit Americans if they join in. So the US will need defensive forces to deal with the counterattack. The 2 weeks gives the US time to get them in position and ready. Could also give Israel another 2 weeks to batter the air defences around Fordo, as well as just generally weaken the area. Even if Trump has already privately decided to attack, he will absolutely want to take no chances on the strike being a damp squib. In fact, there is a possibility that Israel could actually indirectly knock out the facility by targeting the power supplies to the centrifuges. So you don't need to strike the centrifuges directly to destroy them. If you damage their power supply, they could destroy themselves. So although Israel doesn't have the weaponry to directly destroy the facility, it might be able to do so indirectly with the same outcome, at which point Trump doesn't have to do anything, but can claim he would have totally wrecked the place. Another possibility is sorting out the logistics of the bombing raids themselves. As I discussed yesterday, the best base to launch attacks from are controlled by the UK. If it turns out Trump needs Starmer's permission and Starmer's not really given it, Trump needs more time to either persuade Starmer otherwise or launch from Missouri, the only other viable alternative. That may need more time to prepare. And we know that Starmer will not want to give permission. First of all, nobody objectively seriously believes that the strikes on Iran are justified. And reports yesterday suggested that the Attorney General has advised that any strikes could be illegal. And the UK doesn't have to attack Iran directly to be complicit. Just facilitating attacks is enough. And given Starmer's very outspoken views on illegal wars, both recently and decades ago, that suggests he will really not want to authorise attacks on Iran without a very sound legal basis, which seems to be lacking. Or maybe there are enough whispers in Trump's ear from lots of diverse sources that are urging him not to get involved, and the 2 weeks is just buying him time to genuinely decide. So Trump has any number of possible reasons for wanting to avoid committing the US to an attack, and claiming that it's to give space for talks is the least likely of the real reasons. After all, Trump inherited a nuclear deal with Iran which was working, until he tore it up because it had Obama's signature on it. Now, if Trump just wanted to get the same deal with his own Sharpie scrawl on it, he could have easily done that before it got this far. This is about Trump following in the wake of Israel and trying to make it look like he's in charge. It's been like that from the start. He didn't want Israel to attack. He was too weak to order them not to. But let me know what you think in the comments below, and for more content you could subscribe to the channel or even join for access to streams and behind the scenes updates. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.